From woodry textures, unfulfilled promises, and allegedly rigged mob votes, we can all agree that the 1.17 to 1.20 updates were a bit disappointing. But you've heard all of Mojang's shortcomings, so how about I share my thoughts on how I think the next few updates should look like to make the game better. First, we need to identify Minecraft's main problem. In my opinion, the game progression and power scaling is its biggest problem. We have had no progression update since the release of version 1.3 that introduces the end of the dragon, and right now it is ridiculous how fast and easy you can complete this main progression. Sure, there are other bosses in the game, but the Warden and the Wither are all optional and don't directly affect the game's main progression. Next, in terms of power scaling, diamond armor with enchantments practically makes us an unkillable god. Hell, even iron armor is overpowered. As long as you're not stupid, there's no way you die using iron armor. Skeletons and creepers used to be a genuine threat. Now we can just block them with our shield. So, how do we fix it? I propose adding 2 mini-bosses that we need to kill before we are able to get to the end. One in the overworld and one in the nether. And these bosses must be linear, meaning you need to kill the overworld boss in order to unlock or summon the nether boss, which you will then need to open the end portal. Next, what about power scaling? Let's look at a game that deals with power scaling very well. Terraria. In Terraria, after beating the wall of flesh, your world enters hard mode, where new ores and mobs will spawn. So, how about we introduce hard mode using a new dimension? Let's work with what we have. Right now, the ancient city has a portal type structure, so let's use it as a portal to a new dimension. Well, kind of. My idea is to make that portal some sort of time portal, where we will be transported back in time before the world fell and is overrun by skeletons and zombies. So you'll see structures like the strongholds, the ancient cities, and the desert temples thriving above ground along with its civilization. Since it's a different period in time, we can introduce new mobs through these civilizations. The jungle temple civilization, the ocean monument civilization, the desert temple civilization, the ancient city civilization, and the stronghold civilization. Each civilization should have its own unique mobs. The jungle people could use poison darts and poison tip daggers as weapons. They would also have the ability to climb trees, swing around, and run as fast as the player's sprint speed, but as a trade-off, they will not be as tanky. As for the desert people, maybe they could hide in sand, or have crowd control attacks that slows you down if you're in sand, or maybe they could cast sand devils like the new breeze mob. The ocean monument people could be a technologically advanced civilization that uses prismarine armor and has thorns. They will have ranged weapons like the guardian laser attacks and trident warriors. The stronghold civilization is filled with warriors using heavy armor and stronger weapons. They could have units like the crossbowmen, knights, and even paladins. Basically, hard-hitting tanky mobs that are slow. The ancient city people can be a society of witches and warlocks that uses summons as their attacks. There will be necromancers that can summon the undead, a warlock that can summon a variety of golems, and the elite sorcerer that could summon the warden. Most of these civilizations will be hostile, and a few will be neutral, but none will be peaceful. And since they aren't technically monster mobs, these new civilization mobs can spawn at daytime, further increasing the dimension's difficulty. On top of that, we could also make the pillager gang a common mob in this world, by making them spawnable without an outpost structure. The downside of this concept, however, is we get nothing new in terms of the world. Since it's technically the same world, all the ores in the biomes are the same, but we could still introduce new blocks and biomes through the nether and end dimensions of the past. So, my idea for the nether is changing its concept as a whole. Instead of the nether biome being a hell biome, why not make it a prison dimension for the convicts of the stronghold civilization? That will explain the nether fortress and bastions. We could have mutant mobs, mythical creatures, or Mojang could make a whole new mob set that can be farmed for new tools, weapons, and armors. But my personal favorite is putting a massive twist on the nether. Let's make the nether into a paradise dimension, while also still being a prison dimension. Let me explain. Since most of the overworld civilization is hostile, they might imprison peaceful mythical creatures like fairies, giants, and dwarves. Because these creatures are friendly, instead of transforming the nether into a hell biome, it turned into a paradise. The Crimson and Warp Forest could be the fairy biome with all new woods and plants. Soul Sand Valley could be the giants biome, since it has giant bone remains. The Basalt Delta could be the dwarven biome, and the Nether Waste is where the hostile mob spawns. Now, the end will be a skyline biome, but it will be filled with dragons, along with the civilization of dragon tamers and dragon poachers, which make the end cities we have now the remnants of the dragon poachers with its pirate ships and dragon head trophies. We could add lots of different biomes, each with dragons as its local fauna and guardian. We could have the 4 elements as themes of the biome and the dragon type. A fire biome will look like a volcano swamp. An ice or water biome will be icy mountainous regions. The earth element can be represented by meteorite clumps. Air can be a group of floating archipelago islands like the ones we have right now. We could add more non-elemental type biomes and dragons with unique biome properties. For example, an acid biome with acid rain and acid dragons, a lush green biome with nature-themed dragons, and a biome mechanic where anything planted in that biome gets a growth boost. The Ender Dragons are dragons that have been captured and controlled by the poachers. They live in Bandit Cap Islands or past end cities. So, here at the end, all the dragons are neutral except for the Ender Dragon and the Tamed Dragon. The Ender Dragon will be hostile and the Tamed Dragon will be peaceful. Now, the hostile mobs that will spawn here are mainly the dragon poachers. Some will spawn on foot and some will spawn as dragon riders, or even better, commandeering a whole ship. Lastly, it'll be very cool if dragons can be tamed and mounted, just like horses. So, with each dimension and civilizations, we will get a specific type of armor and tools. If we get the Paradise Nether, we could get tools and armor from each of the mob species. For example, we can get fairy armor and a fairy wand, we can get giant hide armor or giant bone armor, maybe a severed giant finger as a weapon or a giant bone spear, and lastly, dwarven steel armor and tools. As for the prison nether, I didn't really think of anything since I like the paradise concept better. Maybe you guys have any ideas for it? Let me know down below. Obviously, the Skylands will have dragon scale armor and weapons, but also I would like to add new wings, a faster version of the Elytra. This version can only be obtained from trading with the dragon tamers. Since we get it from dragon tamers, this version of the wings will be faster than the ones the poachers made, the Elytra. Now that we have the armor and weapons, let's talk about how we can scale them. We can scale the new armor and weapons in 2 ways: linear scaling and dimension-based scaling. Linear scaling means the armor and weapons keep getting stronger and more powerful as we progress the tiers. A dimension-based scaling, however, means that the armor we get from the past dimension is only powerful in the past dimension, but also works both ways. The netherite and diamond armor will not be powerful in the past dimension. That way, both worlds are still balanced. Now, I'm not expecting everything to be done in a single update, but in the course of a couple updates. Anyways, what do you think? Do you agree? That's it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and peace!